Where can I buy a heart for my mom? The chilling question hung in the air, a punch to the gut for Nicolas Herrera, who looked up from his laptop to meet the earnest gaze of a girl no older than 6. She was dressed in a small, faded pink dress, her tiny, wrinkled hands clutching a few crumpled bills and coins. "Pardon me?" he asked, disbelieving his ears. "My mom needs a new heart. Hers isn't working right anymore," she repeated, her voice childish. "You know where they sell them, don't you?" Nicholas glanced around the Mexico City General Hospital lobby. Several people waited in blue plastic chairs, but no one seemed to notice the scene unfolding. The little girl remained, patiently awaiting an answer. "Sweetheart, hearts aren't something you just buy like candy at a store," he said, trying to soften his tone. "Doctors are the ones who handle that. But the doctors say there are no hearts available, and my mom is getting very pale, like when my doll's battery runs out." The comparison struck Nicholas hard. He slowly closed his laptop. He'd only come to the hospital to pick up administrative documents for his heart surgery financing project, just another routine work task. But this child had just made everything real. "What's your name?" he asked. "Valentina." "And you?" "Nicolas, where's your mom right now?" "Upstairs, sleeping a lot. The nurses say she's very tired, but I think she's sad because she can't find her new heart." Valentina moved closer, placing a small hand on his knee. "You seem important. You're wearing a suit and have an expensive computer. You must know where they sell real hearts." "No, sweetheart, it's not that easy." "Please, I have money." She opened her fist, revealing the wrinkled bills. "It's 400 pesos. My grandma gave them to me for emergencies." "And this is an emergency, isn't it?" Nicolas felt a strange sensation in his stomach. The girl looked at him with a trust he didn't deserve, as if he could solve the impossible. "Valentina, where's your dad?" The girl shrugged. "I don't have a dad, just my mom and my grandma. But my grandma stayed in Puebla taking care of my sick uncle. That's why I'm here alone." "Alone? Who's taking care of you?" "Just me. I know how to use the subway and buy food. I'm not a baby." Nicolas was speechless. A 6-year-old girl navigating the city alone, trying to save her mother with 400 pesos. There was something terribly wrong with that picture. "Listen, Mr. Nicolas, are you going to help me or not? Because if you don't know, I have to find someone else." "Wait, don't go yet." But Valentina had already put her money back into a small plastic bag and was heading towards the elevators. Nicolas followed her without much thought. Something about that child's determination had hooked him. They rode up to the 5th floor in silence. Valentina walked through the hallways as if it were her home, greeting some nurses who already knew her. They stopped in front of the adult ICU. "There's my mom," she pointed through the glass. "The one in bed 3. Do you see her?" Nicolas looked inside, and his world reeled. He immediately recognized that face, even though it was thinner and connected to several tubes. Lucia Rivera, the same Lucia who had worked at his company years ago. The same one who had disappeared without explanation overnight. "Is your mom's name Lucia?" he asked, his voice choked. "Yes, do you know her?" Nicolas couldn't answer. His eyes shifted between Lucia's face in that hospital bed and Valentina's features. The shape of her nose, her dark eyes, the way she frowned when she concentrated. "Sir, are you okay?" Valentina asked. "You look pale." Yes, I'm fine," he lied. "Hey, Valentina, how old are you exactly?" 6. I'll be 7 in October." Nicolas quickly calculated in his head. 7 years since Lucia had left the company. Valentina's age was 6. The numbers aligned in a terrifying way. "Did your mom ever tell you about your dad?" "Sometimes she says he was a very busy man, who had more important things to do than take care of us." Valentina's words pierced him like knives. Nicolas leaned against the wall, trying to process what was happening. "Mr. Nicolas, are you really going to help me with my mom's heart?" He looked at her. This girl who might be his daughter. This woman who might have tried to contact him years ago. A whole life he might have completely ignored. "Yes," he finally said. "I'm going to help you." And for the first time in a long time, Nicolas Herrera had no idea what he had just promised. Nicolas didn't sleep that night. He stayed in his office until 3 in the morning, reviewing old files on his computer. He was looking for any trace of Lucia Rivera in the company records. There she was, hired as a temporary secretary in March 2018. Fired in July of the same year. 4 months. The file said voluntary resignation, but Nicolas remembered things differently. Leticia, his permanent secretary, had told him that Lucia simply hadn't returned after the weekend, that she was irresponsible, and it was better that way. Nicolas had been so busy with the company's expansion that he had barely asked questions. Now, looking at the personnel file photo, everything came flooding back. Lucia was 22 then. She was intelligent, efficient, and there was something about her that had attracted him from day one. They had worked together on several late-night projects. One thing had led to another. He vividly remembered that last week of July. Lucia had acted strangely, nervously. She had tried to talk to him several times, but there was always something more urgent to attend to. "We'll talk later," he had told her. Later had never come. His office phone rang, pulling him from his memories. "Hello, Mr. Herrera. It's Valentina. Do you remember me?" Nicolas straightened in his chair. It was 8 in the morning. "Valentina, how did you get my number?" "I asked Nurse Patricia. She knows a lot of important people at the hospital. I told her you were going to help me with my mom's heart." "Where are you right now?" "In the hospital cafeteria. I already had breakfast. I bought a juice and some chilaquiles with the money I had left over from yesterday." "Did you sleep at the hospital?" "Yes, in the waiting room on the 5th floor. The nurses brought me a blanket. I'd done it before." Nicolas's stomach churned. A 6-year-old girl sleeping on hospital chairs because she had nowhere to go. "Valentina, have you seen your mom this morning?" "Yes, she's still asleep. But Dr. Camila says she opened her eyes for a little while last night." "That's good, right?" "Yes, Tobias, it's very good. Listen, I'm coming over there right now." "Really? Did you find the new heart?" "Not yet, but I'm going to talk to the doctors to see what we can do." Nicolas hung up and dialed another number. "Dr. Mendoza, it's Nicolas Herrera. I need you to do me a very discreet personal favor." Half an hour later, Nicolas was at the hospital with a breakfast bag for Valentina and an appointment with Dr. Camila Rios, the cardiologist in charge of Lucia's case. "Mrs. Rivera's condition is critical," the doctor explained in her office. "End-stage dilated cardiomyopathy. She needs an urgent transplant, but she's on the waiting list. Her blood type is common, but her immune status is complicated." "How urgent?" Nicolas asked. "Weeks, maybe a month if we're lucky. And if a compatible heart doesn't appear?" The doctor didn't answer. She didn't need to. "Did you know the patient?" Dr. Rios asked. "Your interest seems very personal. She worked for me years ago. I feel responsible." "Responsible for what?" Nicolas didn't know how to answer that question without sounding like a complete idiot. "Doctor, there's something else. The child, Valentina, has no close relatives available. If something happens to her mother..." "I understand. Would you be willing to take care of the medical expenses?" "Of everything necessary." After the meeting, Nicolas found Valentina in Lucia's room. The girl had found a chair and was sitting by the bed, reading a storybook aloud. And then the prince told the princess that everything was going to be okay, because he was going to find a way to save her, Valentina read in a serious voice. Nicolas stood in the doorway, watching. Lucia looked fragile, connected to several monitors. But there was something about her face that was familiar, the same determination he saw in Valentina. "Mom, Mr. Nicholas came to visit you," Valentina said without turning around. "He's the one who's going to get you the new heart." "Hello, Lucia," Nicolas whispered, approaching the bed. There was no response, but for a moment it seemed her eyelids moved slightly. "Do you know what's weird?" Valentina suddenly said. "When I told my mom your name yesterday, before she fell asleep again, she cried, but not from sadness. It was different." Nicholas felt the air leave his lungs. "Does she know me?" "I think so. And I think you knew her before too, right?" The girl looked at him with eyes too intelligent for her age. Nicholas sat in the other chair and covered his face with his hands. "Yes, I knew her. Was she your girlfriend?" "Something like that. And that's why she left?" "I don't know, Valentina. That's what I want to find out." Valentina nodded, as if that answer was enough for now. "Mr. Nicholas, do you have children?" The question hit him like a punch. "No," he replied. "At least not that I know of." "That's sad. Dads are important, even if they're not around all the time." Nicholas stared at her. Everything about that child felt familiar now that he knew what to look for. The way she bit her lip when she was thinking, the dimple in her left cheek when she smiled. His own mother had had that same dimple. "Valentina, can I ask you a personal question?" "Of course. When exactly is your birthday?" "October 15th, 2018. Nicholas did the math again. Lucia had left the company in July 2018. If she had been pregnant then... "Mr. Nicholas, you look weird again." "I'm fine. I need to make some calls." That afternoon, Nicholas had an appointment with Dr. Mendoza for a DNA test. He didn't know if he wanted to know the result, but he needed to. For the first time in his life, he was afraid of what the future would show him. "The results are definitive, Nicholas. She's your daughter." Dr. Mendoza handed him the papers with a serious expression. Nicholas took them with trembling hands, although he already knew what they would say. He had spent 3 days observing Valentina's every gesture, every expression, every mannerism that reminded him of himself. 99% probability of paternity, he read aloud. "What are you going to do now?" Nicholas folded the papers and put them in his jacket pocket. "I don't know." It had been the most honest answer he had given in weeks. He didn't know how to face Lucia. He didn't know how to tell Valentina he was her father. He didn't know if he had the right to claim a paternity he had ignored for 6 years. When he arrived at the hospital that afternoon, he found Valentina in the hallway, pacing back and forth with a sheet of paper in her hands. "What are you doing, sweetheart?" "I'm writing a letter to God. Or to the hospital. I'm not sure who to send it to." "A letter?" Valentina showed him the paper. In uneven, childish handwriting, she had written, "Dear God, or Mr. Director of the hospital, my mom needs a new heart very quickly. The doctors say hers doesn't work anymore, and she could die. I don't want to be alone. I have 400 pesos saved, and I can work cleaning or whatever. Please help me save my mom. Sincerely, Valentina Rivera, 6 years old." 6. Nicholas felt something break inside him as he read those lines. "Valentina, come here." They sat on the blue plastic chairs in the hallway. Nicholas didn't know where to begin. Dr. Camilla explained well what's wrong with your mom. "Yes, her heart is very tired, and she needs a new one, like when my bicycle broke, and we needed to change the tires. Something like that. But getting a new heart is more complicated than getting new tires." "Why?" "Because hearts come from people who don't need them anymore, and that doesn't happen very often." Valentina thought about it for a moment. "Like when someone dies?" "Exactly. And that person has to be compatible with your mom, like an exact size. And if no one appears?" Nicholas couldn't answer. Instead, he put an arm around Valentina's shoulders. "We're going to find a solution, I promise you." "How can you be so sure?" "Because now I know something I didn't know before." "What?" Nicholas took a deep breath. "Was it now or never? I know that your mom and I knew each other very well years ago. And I know that I also have a very important reason to help you both." Valentina looked at him with curiosity. "What reason?" "I can't tell you yet, but you'll understand soon." That night, Nicholas stayed at the hospital very late, waiting for Lucia to wake up. The doctors had said there were moments when she was semi-conscious, although she couldn't speak because of the tube in her throat. At 11 at night, Lucia's eyelids moved. She slowly opened her eyes and looked around, disoriented. When her gaze met Nicolas's, her eyes filled with tears. Nicolas approached the bed. "Hello, Lucia." She tried to speak, but the respirator prevented her. Instead, she moved her hand slightly. Nicolas took it in his. "Valentina is fine. She's sleeping in the waiting room. She's a very brave girl." Lucia squeezed his hand. "I know you want to tell me something," Nicolas continued, "and I think I know what it is." Lucia's eyes widened. "She's my daughter, isn't she?" A tear rolled down Lucia's cheek. She nodded almost imperceptibly. "Why did you never tell me?" Lucia closed her eyes, exhausted by the effort, but before falling back asleep, she weakly pointed towards the nightstand. There was a small bag with the belongings she had brought to the hospital. Nicolas searched the bag. He found an old wallet, some photos of Valentina, and a yellowed envelope with his name written in Lucia's handwriting. It was sealed, but it had clearly been opened and resealed many times. Inside, there was a letter dated July 20th, 2018. "Nicolas, I tried to talk to you several times this week, but you're always busy. Your secretary tells me not to bother you with personal matters, but this is important. I'm pregnant. It's yours. I know we didn't plan this, but it happened. I'm not asking you to marry me or anything like that. I just thought you had a right to know. If you want to be a part of this baby's life, look for me. If not, I'll understand. But I needed to tell you. Lucia." Nicolas read the letter 3 times. He remembered that week perfectly. He had been closing an important deal. Letitia had told him that Lucia was being very insistent and that he had more important things to do. Letitia. His secretary had intercepted this. She had prevented him from knowing about his own daughter. Nicolas felt a fury he had never experienced, but also a deep sadness. He had lost 6 years of Valentina's life. 6 years in which Lucia had raised their daughter alone, probably hating him for ignoring them. He looked towards the bed where Lucia rested. Her breathing was irregular, labored. The cardiac monitor showed an erratic rhythm. "I'm going to save you," he whispered to her. "Both of you, I swear." He left the room with a determination he hadn't felt in years. He had calls to make, favors to collect, and a secretary to settle scores with. For the first time in his life, Nicolas Herrera was going to fight for something more important than money. He was going to fight for his family. "Where is Letitia?" Nicolas burst into his office at 7 in the morning, his eyes red from lack of sleep, and Lucia's crumpled letter in his fist. "Good morning, Mr. Herrera." Letitia looked up from her computer with a professional smile. "You're early today. I need to talk to you now." "Of course. Do you want some coffee? You look exhausted." Nicolas closed his office's glass door and placed the letter on his desk. "Do you recognize this?" Letitia approached and looked at the paper. Her expression immediately changed. "I don't know what you're talking about. Lucia Rivera, July 2018. A letter that never reached my hands. Mr. Herrera, I didn't—" "Don't lie to me," Nicolas yelled, pounding the desk. "That woman is dying in a hospital. My daughter has been living alone, trying to save her mother with 400 pesos. Do you have any idea what you've caused?" Letitia remained silent for a long moment. When she finally spoke, her voice had lost all professional sweetness. "Your daughter? Now she's your daughter. Did you know she was pregnant?" "Of course I knew." "She was showing. She came here every morning with nausea, asking to speak with you about an urgent personal matter. And why didn't you tell me?" Letitia straightened in her chair, defiant. "Because you had more important things to do. You were closing the deal with the Japanese. I wasn't going to let a temporary secretary distract you with her problems. Her problems were my child. And what was that going to change? Were you going to drop everything to play house with an employee? Please, Mr. Herrera, We both know what kind of man you are." Nicholas felt as if he had been slapped. "What kind of man do you think I am? The kind who sleeps with his employees and then forgets about them. The kind who puts work above everything else. The kind who—" "Enough!" "No, I won't stop. I worked for you for 10 years. I saw you with other women, secretaries, clients, business partners, all temporary. Why would Lucia be different? Because she was different. Really? Then why didn't you look for her when she stopped coming? Why didn't you ask about her?" Nicholas had no answer for that. Letitia was partly right. He hadn't looked for Lucia when she disappeared. He had accepted the explanation that she was irresponsible and had moved on with his life. "I did you a favor," Letitia continued. "I saved you years of problems, alimony, responsibilities. A woman who was going to constantly bother you for money. A favor? You call stealing my chance to know my daughter a favor? Your daughter is better off without you, just like Lucia was. How can you say that? Lucia is dying. Valentina is alone. And you're here, playing the hero, when it's already too late." Nicholas approached the desk where Letitia was still sitting. "Do you know what's most pathetic about all this? That you did it out of jealousy." "Jealousy? What would I be jealous of? That Lucia had something with me that you were never going to have." Letitia's face turned red. "You don't know what you're talking about?" "Of course I do. 10 years waiting for me to look at you as something more than an efficient secretary. 10 years putting up with my snubs, my bad moods, my affairs with other women, waiting for your turn. That's not true. When Lucia arrived, you saw that she was different. You saw that there was real chemistry, and you couldn't stand it." Letitia stood up abruptly from her chair. "Okay, yes, I was jealous. So what? I was here every day, working for you, taking care of your things, organizing your life, and that woman came for 4 months and was already in your bed. That didn't give you the right to— Didn't give me the right to what? To protect you from making a stupid mistake? Because that's exactly what was going to happen. You were going to marry her out of obligation. You were going to be miserable. And then you were going to blame me for not saving you. That wasn't your decision. Well, it's done. And look where you are now, her dying, the child alone, and you feeling guilty about something that happened years ago." Nicholas picked up the phone from his desk. "Who are you calling?" "Security, to escort you to collect your things." "Are you firing me?" "I'm letting you go, right now." Letitia stood there for a few seconds, processing what had just happened. "You're making a mistake, Mr. Herrera. The mistake I made was 10 years ago, when I didn't realize what kind of person you really were. Without me, this company will fall apart. We'll see about that." 20 minutes later, Letitia was leaving the building with a cardboard box full of her personal belongings. Nicholas watched her from his office window, feeling a mixture of satisfaction and emptiness. His phone rang. It was the hospital. "Mr. Herrera, this is Dr. Rios. You need to come immediately. Lucia's condition has complicated." Nicholas hung up and ran to the elevator. On the way, he dialed his lawyer's number. "Roberto, I need you to find everything you can about experimental heart surgeries, and I want a list of the best cardiologists in the country. I don't care what it costs." "When do you need it?" "Yesterday." As the taxi moved through the city traffic, Nicholas thought of Valentina waiting at the hospital, probably writing another letter to God. He thought of Lucia fighting for her life, believing he had abandoned her on purpose. He couldn't change the past anymore, but he still had time to change the future. If it wasn't too late. "Her blood pressure is dropping too low. We need to intubate her again." Nicholas arrived running to the 5th floor and found a group of doctors around Lucia's bed. Valentina was standing in the corner of the room, her eyes wide, watching as more wires were connected to her mother. "What's happening?" Nicholas asked Dr. Rios. "Her heart is failing faster than we expected. We had to put her on the emergency transplant list, but the chances of getting a compatible heart in the next few hours are very low." Nicholas looked towards Valentina, who had quietly approached to listen to the conversation. What other options are there? There's an experimental surgery being tested in Guadalajara. A ventricular assist device that could keep her alive while we wait for a transplant. Experimental? Yes. The risks are high. But without it, the doctor didn't finish the sentence. She didn't need to. How much time do we have to decide? Hours, maybe less. Nicolas crouched down to Valentina's level. Sweetheart, did you understand what the doctor said? That my mom is dying faster. Yes, but she also said there's an operation that can help her, like fixing her heart. Something like that. But it's dangerous. Valentina thought about it for a moment. More dangerous than dying. The question hit Nicolas in the chest. A 6-year-old girl understood the situation better than many adults. No, sweetheart, it's not more dangerous than that. Then we have to do it. I need to talk to your mom first. Can she wake up? The doctor says maybe for a few minutes. Half an hour later, Lucia opened her eyes. She was very pale, but conscious. The doctors had temporarily removed the respirator to allow her to speak, although her voice was barely a whisper. Hello, she said to Nicolas. Hello, how do you feel? Like I got hit by a truck. Despite everything, Nicolas smiled. That was the Lucia he remembered, sarcastic even in the worst moments. Lucia, we have to talk. I know. Valentina told me you already know the truth. Why didn't you insist more? Why didn't you come looking for me? I did. Your secretary told me you were too busy for employee problems, that if I wanted money, I had to get a lawyer. I never said that. I know. But at the time I thought you did. Lucia, forgive me. If you had known, what would you have done? Would you have married me out of obligation? Would you have been happy? Nicolas didn't know what to answer. Maybe not, he admitted. But I would have tried to be a good father. That's all that matters now. There's an experimental surgery in Guadalajara. It's risky, but... Nicolas, look at me. He moved closer to the bed. Don't make promises you can't keep. What are you talking about? Don't tell me everything will be okay. Don't tell me we're going to be a happy family. Don't tell me you love me, because we both know that's not true. Lucia, just tell me one thing. If I don't make it, will you take care of Valentina? Will you make it? Answer me. Yes, I'll take care of her, as if she were the most important thing in the world. Even if that means changing your life completely? My life has already changed completely. Lucia smiled weakly. Okay, do it. The surgery. Are you sure? I have 6 years of reasons to be sure. Mom, are you going to die? Valentina suddenly asked, approaching the bed. I don't know, my love, but I'm going to fight very hard to stay with you. And if you can't, then Mr. Nicolas will take care of you. Is that okay? Valentina looked at Nicolas with those serious eyes he now knew so well. Will you really take care of me? Yes, even if I'm annoying sometimes, especially if you're annoying sometimes. And will you read me stories before bed? As many as you want. And will you come to school meetings? To all of them. And you won't leave even if you have a lot of work? That question hit him hard. Nicolas realized that Valentina had experienced abandonment before. She had seen adults prioritize other things over her. I won't leave, I promise you. Valentina nodded, satisfied with the answer. Okay, then my mom can have the surgery. 3 hours later, Nicolas had arranged everything. The air ambulance transfer to Guadalajara, the specialized medical team, the permits for the experimental surgery. His assistant had canceled all his meetings for the next few days. Mr. Herrera, Dr. Rios approached him as they prepared Lucia for transfer. There's something you should know. What? The girl asked me to give you this. She handed him a folded sheet of paper. Nicolas opened it and read, Dear Dad, because I already know you're my dad, even though you haven't told me. Thank you for helping my mom. I hope she doesn't die. But if she dies, don't be sad. She told me that dads sometimes arrive late, but that doesn't mean they're not good dads. I'm going to teach you how to be a dad if you don't know how. With love, your daughter Valentina. P.S. Can you buy me ice cream after the operation? Nicolas had to sit down in a chair to avoid falling. Valentina appeared beside him. Did you read my letter? Yes, sweetheart. Is it okay if I call you Dad? It's perfect. And the ice cream? All the ice cream you want. For the first time in days, Valentina genuinely smiled. We're going to save my mom, right, Dad? We're going to try with all our might. The plane was waiting for them at the airport. Nicolas was afraid, but also felt something he had never felt before. The responsibility of being a father. And for the first time in his life, that felt more important than any business. The surgery will last between 8 and 12 hours, explained Dr. Jimenez at the cardiology hospital in Guadalajara. It's a very delicate procedure. We are going to implant a device that will help her heart pump blood while we wait for a transplant. Nicolas nodded, trying to process all the technical information. Beside him, Valentina listened attentively, as if she understood every word. What are the chances it will work? Nicolas asked. 60%, maybe 70% if her body doesn't reject the device. And if it rejects it? I prefer not to talk about that in front of the child. Valentina stood in front of the doctor. Doctor, I'm not stupid. I know my mom could die. But I also know that if you don't do anything, she will definitely die. So let's do it. Dr. Jimenez looked at Nicolas in surprise. Your daughter is very mature for her age. Yes, she is. They took Lucia to the operating room at 2 in the afternoon. Before she was wheeled away, Valentina approached the stretcher. Mom, be good to the doctors, and fight hard, okay? I always fight hard, my love. I know. That's why you're the best mom in the world. Lucia looked at Nicolas over Valentina's head. Take care of her, of course. No, Nicolas, really take care of her. Not like you took care of your businesses. Take care of her as if she were the only thing you have. She's the only thing I have. The operating room doors closed. Nicolas and Valentina were left alone in the waiting room. What do we do now, Dad? It was the first time Valentina had called him Dad directly, without hesitation. The word hit him straight in the chest. We wait. For a long time? Quite a while. Can you tell me how you met my mom? Nicolas sat on one of the uncomfortable hospital chairs. Valentina snuggled up beside him, leaning against his arm. Your mom came to work at my company when you were only a few months in her belly, though I didn't know it. Was she pretty? Very pretty. But what I liked most was that she was very intelligent. More intelligent than me in many ways. Did you fall in love quickly? I think so, but I was very foolish back then. Why? Because I thought working a lot was the most important thing in the world. I didn't understand that there are more important things. Like what? Like families. Like taking care of the people you love. Valentina was silent for a moment. Do you love me? The question caught him off guard. Nicolas looked at this girl who had appeared in his life just a week ago. A girl who was his daughter, who had his eyes and his determination, who had been living alone trying to save her mother. Yes, I love you, even though you barely know me. I've been getting to know you my whole life. I just didn't know it. That's nice, Valentina said, and fell asleep against his shoulder. Hours passed slowly. Nicolas didn't move so as not to wake Valentina. Every now and then, a nurse would come out of the operating room, and he would look at her with hope, but it was always for other patients' cases. At 8 in the evening, Valentina woke up. Is my mom out yet? Not yet, my daughter. I'm hungry. Let's go get something to eat. They found a cafeteria on the first floor of the hospital. Valentina ordered quesadillas and orange juice. Nicolas wasn't hungry, but ordered a coffee. Dad, can I ask you something? Anything you want. Did you want to have children? I never thought about it. I was too busy with work. And now that you have me? Now I think I've been wasting my time all these years. You haven't been wasting your time. You've been waiting for me. The wisdom of that 6-year-old girl continued to surprise him. Do you know what I like most about you? He asked her. What? That you say exactly what you think. My mom says that sometimes gets you into trouble. Sometimes. But it also lets people know who you really are. They returned to the waiting room. It was 10 at night, and there was no news from the operating room. Valentina fell asleep again, this time stretched out on 3 chairs with her head in Nicolas's lap. At 11:30, Dr. Jimenez came out of the operating room. He had his surgical mask hanging around his neck and looked exhausted, but he was smiling. Nicolas gently woke Valentina. "Sweetheart, the doctor's out. How's my mom?" Valentina asked before being fully awake. "The surgery was successful," said Dr. Jimenez. "The device is working correctly. Her heart is responding well." "Does that mean she's going to be cured?" Valentina asked. "It means she's going to live while we wait for a heart transplant, and that gives us time." "How much time?" "Months. Maybe more than a year if everything goes well." Nicolas felt as if he could breathe for the first time in days. Valentina jumped up and hugged him. "We did it, Dad. We saved my mom. There's still a long way to go, sweetheart. But she's not going to die tomorrow, right?" "No, she's not going to die tomorrow anymore." "When can we see her?" "In a few hours, when she wakes up from the anesthesia," the doctor replied. That night, Nicolas and Valentina slept on hospital chairs. He covered her with his jacket and stayed awake, watching her sleep. For the first time in years, Nicolas Herrera didn't think about work, about business, about money. He only thought about this girl who was his daughter and the woman who was fighting to live upstairs. And he realized that he had found what he had been looking for his whole life, without knowing it. A family. "I can't walk even 10 meters without getting out of breath." Lucia was sitting on the edge of the hospital bed, trying to put on her slippers. 3 weeks had passed since the surgery, and although the device in her chest was working correctly, the recovery was slower than everyone expected. The doctor said it was normal. Nicolas reminded her from the chair by the window. "Your body needs time to adapt. My body needs a heart that works, not a metal device." Valentina ran into the room with a paper bag in her hands. "Mom, I brought you Jell-O from the cafeteria, strawberry, just how you like it." "Thanks, my love. Come here." Valentina carefully climbed onto the bed, avoiding the wires coming out of her mother's chest. "Are you feeling better? A little better every day?" "The physical therapist says you have to walk more," Valentina said seriously. "I can go with you." "Okay, but first let me eat my Jell-O." Nicolas watched them from his chair. In those 3 weeks, he had completely reorganized his life. He had put his younger brother in charge of the company temporarily and had moved to a hotel near the hospital. Every morning he had breakfast with Valentina in the cafeteria, took her to see Lucia, and then accompanied her to the temporary school the hospital had for children with hospitalized family members. "Dad, are you coming to walk with us?" Valentina asked. "If your mom wants to." Lucia looked at him. In those weeks they had had many conversations, but always about practical things, medications, therapy schedules, insurance paperwork. They had never really talked about what had happened between them or what was going to happen next. "Okay, but let's go slow." The 3 of them left the room. Lucia walked very slowly, leaning on a cane. Every few steps, she had to stop to catch her breath. Valentina walked beside her, telling her about her new friends at the hospital school. "Do you know what the teacher asked me today?" Valentina said. "If you and Dad were going to get married when you left the hospital." Lucia stopped dead in her tracks. "And what did you say?" "I said I didn't know, but I hoped so, because then we could all live together in a big house." Nicolas felt a knot in his stomach. They had carefully avoided that topic for the past few weeks. "Valentina, things aren't always that easy," Lucia said. "Why not?" "Because adults sometimes have complicated problems." "Like what?" Lucia looked at Nicolas for help, but he didn't know what to say either. "Like sometimes 2 people love each other, but they can't live together," Lucia finally explained. "Do you love each other?" Valentina. "It's an easy question, Mom. Yes or no?" Lucia sat on a bench in the hospital garden. Nicolas sat on the other side, with Valentina between them. "Your dad and I loved each other very much years ago," Lucia said. "But things got complicated. Because he didn't know I existed." "Exactly. But now he knows, and he's taking care of us, and he comes every day, and he buys me ice cream, and he reads me stories when you can't. Yes, he's doing all that. So what's the problem? Nicholas decided to speak. The problem, sweetheart, is that sometimes people need time to heal things that broke. Like when my favorite doll broke and Grandma had to sew it. Something like that. But after she sewed it, it was just as pretty as before. Sometimes yes, sometimes no, Valentina thought. Do you love each other right now? The question hung in the air for a long moment. Nicholas looked at Lucia. She had her eyes fixed on the ground. Nicholas began, but Lucia interrupted him. Valentina, can you go buy me a bottle of water from the machine over there so we can talk about adult things? Exactly. Okay, but don't fight, okay? When Valentina walked away, Lucia turned to Nicholas. Don't give her hopes you won't be able to fulfill. What do you mean? That she already sees you as the perfect dad who's going to fix everything. But when I leave here, when things normalize, you're going to go back to your real life. This is my real life. No, Nicholas, your real life is your company, your meetings, your business trips. This is just a break. Why do you think that? Because I know you. Because I know what you're like when there's no crisis to solve. People can change. Some people can. Others just pretend they change until things get difficult. Nicholas moved closer to her on the bench. What do I have to do for you to believe me? I don't know if there's anything you can do. Lucia, No. Don't tell me you love me. Don't tell me everything will be different. Just stay. If you really want to change, just stay when it's boring, when it's difficult, when Valentina has tantrums, and I'm in a bad mood, and life is normal and complicated. And if I stay, then maybe we'll have a chance. Valentina ran back with the bottle of water. Are you done talking about adult things? Yes, sweetheart, Nicholas said. We're done. And are you going to get married? First, your mom has to get completely well. And then? Then we'll see what happens. Valentina sighed dramatically. Adults make everything so complicated. That afternoon, while Valentina did her homework at the hospital room table, Nicholas thought about Lucia's words. She was right. It was easy to be the hero during a crisis. The difficult part was being a good father and a good partner in everyday life. But for the first time in his life, Nicholas wanted to try. He wanted to prove he could stay. Dad, why is there a box of dinosaur cereal in your cart? You hate sweet cereals. Nicholas looked down. Indeed, there was a box of dinosaur-shaped cereal in his supermarket cart, along with strawberry yogurts, chocolate chip cookies, and apple juice. Because now I live with a 6-year-old who thinks normal cereals taste like cardboard. 2 months had passed since Lucia had left the hospital. Nicholas had bought a house in a quiet neighborhood with 3 bedrooms and a small garden. Officially, Lucia and Valentina lived there as temporary tenants, while she recovered completely. But the reality was that they had become a strange, functional family. Have you learned to braid hair yet? Valentina asked as they walked down the candy aisle. More or less. Yesterday it was crooked, but your mom says I'm getting better. It's true. Last week it looked like I'd fought a blender. Nicholas smiled. The first few days had been a disaster. He had tried to hire a nanny to help him, but Valentina had cried so much that he had had to fire her. I want you to take care of me, she had told him. Real dads don't hire other people to do dad things. So Nicholas had learned to make breakfasts that weren't just coffee and toast, to check first-grade math homework, to read stories with different voices for each character, to braid hair, even if it still came out wrong. Can we buy ice cream? Valentina asked. Didn't we just have breakfast? Ice cream is for after lunch. It's strategic planning. Where did you learn that phrase? From you. You said it on the phone yesterday. Nicholas realized that Valentina absorbed everything he said and did. It was a responsibility that sometimes scared him. Okay, but only a liter. We can buy 2 flavors. Fine. And cookies to go with it? Valentina. And fruit too, so it's healthy. You're a very good negotiator. I learned from the best. When they arrived home, Lucia was in the garden, watering the plants they had bought the week before. She looked better every day, stronger. Color had returned to her cheeks, and she could already walk long distances without getting so tired. "How was the errand?" she asked. "Dad let me buy dinosaur cereal," Valentina shouted, running towards the kitchen with the bags. "Dinosaur cereal?" Lucia raised an eyebrow. I couldn't say no. She gave me a full presentation on the nutritional importance of dinosaurs for breakfast. "She's manipulating you." "I know. And it works." Lucia smiled. It was a real smile. Not one of the ones she had been faking the first few days after leaving the hospital. "Do you know what's weird?" she said. "What?" "That you look comfortable doing this." "Doing what?" "Being a dad, being normal." Nicolas sat on one of the garden chairs. "I don't feel normal. I feel like I'm acting in a play, and at any moment someone is going to realize I don't know my part." "But you're doing well." "You think so?" "Valentina adores you, and that can't be faked." "And what do you think?" The question came out before he could stop himself. Lucia was silent for a moment, concentrating on a plant that didn't need more water. "I think you're different than you were before." "Different how?" "More present. Before, when you talked to someone, it always seemed like you were thinking about something else. Now you really listen." "I had good teachers." "Teachers?" "You and Valentina taught me that there are more important things than work." Lucia put the hose on the ground and sat in the chair next to him. "Nicolas, I need to tell you something." "What?" "I'm scared." "Of what?" "Of getting used to this. Of believing it can last. Of Valentina getting so used to having you that if you leave, her heart will break." "I'm not going to leave." "That's what you say now, but you haven't been to the office for more than a few hours in 2 months. Don't you miss your old life?" Nicolas thought about it honestly. "I miss some things. I miss the feeling of closing an important deal. I miss traveling. I miss having control over my schedule." "See? You're already thinking about going back." I wasn't finished. "What?" "I also realized that all those things I miss are just temporary emotions. Closing a deal feels good for a few days. Then you need to close another. Traveling is fun, but you always come back to an empty apartment, and having control over your schedule is useless if you have no one to share your time with." Lucia looked at him without saying anything. "This?" Nicolas continued, pointing towards the house where Valentina was singing while putting away groceries. "This feels good every day. Different every day, but always good. Even if Valentina had a tantrum this morning because she didn't want to wear the shoes you bought her, especially for that reason. Even if I'm in a bad mood half the time because my chest still hurts and I get tired quickly, especially for that too. And even if we have to eat dinosaur cereal because my daughter convinced you it was a good idea, okay, maybe not especially for that, but yes." Lucia laughed, a real laugh like the ones Nicolas remembered from when she worked in his office. "Do you know what I like most about you now?" she said. "What?" "That you're not afraid to say silly things anymore. I always said silly things. I just used to think they were very intelligent." "Dad! Mom!" Valentina ran out of the house. "Can we make cookies? I saw a recipe on TV that looks easy." "Do you know how to make cookies?" Lucia asked Nicolas. "I have no idea, but I guess we're going to learn. We're going to make a mess, probably." "And you don't mind?" "Not at all." And for the first time since they had started living together, Lucia leaned in and kissed him on the cheek. "Okay," she whispered in his ear. "Maybe you do have a chance. What if the new heart doesn't last long?" Valentina's question hung in the Sunday afternoon air. The three of them were in the park, sitting on a bench under the shade of a large tree. Lucia had just returned from her monthly medical appointment, where she had received good news. The device was still working perfectly, and she was responding well to treatment. "Why do you ask that, my love?" Lucia said, settling Valentina between her and Nicolas on the bench. "Because Sophia in my class says that machines break down, and I don't want you to break down." Nicolas looked at Lucia over Valentina's head. In the last 6 months, they had had that conversation several times, but always between themselves, never in front of Valentina. "Look, my daughter," Lucia said, taking her daughter's small hands. "It's true that the device I have in my chest won't last forever, and it's true that I'm still waiting for a new heart. But does that mean you're going to die? It means my time is different from other people's, but that's not necessarily bad. How is that not bad? Because when you know your time might be limited, every day becomes more important. Every breakfast, every story before bed, every afternoon in the park like this." Valentina frowned, thinking, like when you only have one piece of chocolate and you savor it more slowly. Exactly. And what if a new heart never appears? Lucia took a deep breath. She had rehearsed this answer many times in her head, but she had never had to say it aloud. "Then we will live as if every day were the most important day in the world. Every day, forever, for all the time we have." Nicolas put his arm around Lucia's shoulders. In those months, he had learned not to make promises he couldn't keep. He had learned that being a father sometimes meant not having answers, but being there anyway. "Do you know what I think?" Valentina suddenly said. "What do you think?" "That maybe the new heart will never come, but I also think it doesn't matter, because we already have everything we need." "What do you mean?" "That I have my mom, and now I also have my dad, and you have each other, and we live in a nice house with a garden, and we eat dinosaur cereal for breakfast, and Dad has already learned to braid hair that doesn't look so ugly." "Hey," Nicolas protested, "they're almost perfect." "Almost," Valentina conceded with a smile. "The point is that we're happy right now, and if a new heart appears tomorrow, we'll still be happy, and if it doesn't, we'll still be happy." Lucia felt her eyes fill with tears. Her 7-year-old daughter had managed to understand something that had taken her months to accept. "When did you get so wise?" she asked her. "When I understood that happy endings aren't about everything being perfect. They're about being together while things happen." Nicolas leaned forward to see Valentina better. "Where did you learn that?" "From you two. Mom taught me to be brave when things are difficult. And you taught me that sometimes dads arrive late, but when they really arrive, they stay." "And what did you teach us?" Lucia asked. Valentina thought about it for a moment. "You taught me that love isn't about how much time you have with someone. It's about how important you make every moment you're together feel." The three of them remained silent for a while, watching other families pass by in the park. Children running, parents pushing swings, grandparents feeding ducks in the pond. "Do you know what I want to do tomorrow?" Valentina suddenly said. "What?" Nicolas and Lucia asked at the same time. "I want us to have dinosaur cereal for breakfast, all three of us together, and then I want Dad to take me to school, but walking slowly so we're not in a hurry. And in the afternoon, I want us to make cookies again, but the ones that turn out well. And at night, I want you to read me the story of the princess who saved the dragon." "Is that all?" Nicolas asked. "No, I also want us to hug a lot, because hugs make time feel longer." Lucia took Nicolas's hand over Valentina's head. Their fingers intertwined naturally, as if they had been practicing that gesture for years. "You know what, Valentina?" Lucia said. "What?" "I think we found our happy ending. Even if my heart is borrowed, especially because your heart is borrowed, because that reminds us every day that we have to take good care of this time we have together." The sun began to set behind the park trees. Other families began to pack up their things to go home. But Nicolas, Lucia, and Valentina stayed there a little longer, without rushing, savoring that moment as if it were chocolate. "Ready to go home?" Nicolas finally asked. "Ready," Lucia and Valentina said at the same time. And as they walked towards the car, Valentina between them, holding their hands, Nicolas realized something. He had spent his whole life looking for success, chasing goals, trying to get somewhere important. But it turned out that the most important place in the world was right there, walking slowly home with his family, in no hurry to get anywhere else than to the place where they could be together. For the first time in his life, Nicolas Herrera had found something that lasted forever, even if forever was just one day at a time. And that was more than enough. It was everything.